They came to us with this and ended up with this. For the last 25 years, I've been designing websites for both startups and Fortune 500 companies. The website is not just supposed to look good, it's supposed to convert. Today, I'm gonna take you behind the scenes of a medical startup that we worked on last year. Medidesk is a startup that helps hospitals and clinics improve their registrations. It gets patients to register, it gets their customer support to get in touch with patients, and so on. It simplifies and streamlines the communication. This is a redesign because the startup was already established and had clients. I'm gonna show you how we used research to first figure out which direction to push it, and then how we modified some of the key elements to make it convert better. There are some controversial takes here, but they have proven to work because since then the startup has tripled the revenue. And from what I've heard, the entire industry is complementing their website. What many designers do is that they take the previous website and they apply the newest design trend on it. So make some glass transparent panels on it or some dark mode gradients and call it a day. There is no thought put into it. This is not how we do it. The first thing we do is put it through our internal tool called Web Review that we're actually going to release to the public pretty soon. You can find the link in the description. And it uses all my books and my courses to spot all the possible problems with the previous website and lists them from top to bottom. It checks everything from how friendly the colors are, the spacing, the typography. It also goes through all the marketing slogans, all the headings basically of the website, and finds out whether they can be shorter or improved in any way to be more convincing. The second step is our manual heuristic analysis. And now don't be afraid, heuristics just mean stuff that we all collectively know from the past. So this is based on our experience. We took what Web Review gave us, and then on top of that, we created a ton of annotations. However, we are not from the medical industry, obviously, we're designers. So the first thing that we always do in such cases is that if we're not sure about something on the website, we ask questions because the client obviously knows their business. So we need to figure out whether some of the design choices that we might think are bad are actually good in this particular industry. And there were some surprises. Stick around to hear what they are. There is this notion among people who make websites, and this is mostly true, but not in this case. The notion is that you need to simplify. The less sections and text and content and elements, the better, because people are cognitively overloaded already, so they don't want to be bombarded by information. And that generally is the truth. But not in this case, because this comes back to who is the product for. Most products are typical B2C, which means it's business to consumer. And most consumers have the attention span of a goldfish, 8 seconds. So you need them to focus on the right things at the right time, and the best approach to this is subtraction. Anything that is not necessary or not beneficial, it just goes out the window. In case of Medidesk, the decision maker, the person who is actually paying them, the client, is the director of a hospital. So it's not a typical consumer. And the app itself is not your typical $10 per month. It's a lot more expensive. So it is a decision that those companies need to make to streamline their processes, to make them better, but it's not a light decision. A hospital is a complex set of different moving parts, and switching it to a completely new system is always risky. This is why, in this case, the ideal customer actually wants as much information as possible. And it's not even about just testimonials. It's about the functionality and how that functionality fits within that specific niche of the medical industry. Of course, there are also different kinds of medical establishments. There are dentist clinics, there are beauty clinics, and there are regular hospitals, and all of those different specialized kinds in between. How do you make an informational landing page that caters to all of them? Well, you need to improvise and you need to create various different clickable sections that will allow them to read how Metidesk solves their particular problem. And if they don't find their own problem on the list, they might not be inclined to purchase. And this is a tip for you. If you have a business that is B2B, complex and rather expensive, then you need to figure out all the potential questions your customers might have and then give them sometimes more than one answer to each of them, and try to make it visual. In some cases, complexity is actually good. Overall, this landing page is pretty huge. It has multiple subpages that give you more context and more information, but it also has clickable elements that gives you new copy for a specific niche that you're in. Click on one of the options and then on the right side you see the description of that. You click on the next option and you see a description of that. On a normal landing page, that would not stand. It would be too much clicking and too much doing stuff for the customer to actually care for it. But in this case, knowing that the customer wants as much information as possible, we are completely fine with that, and that actually helps to increase the conversions because it answers a lot of the questions up front. One thing that we noticed right away, that making a modern, beautiful and semi-minimalist web design for this brand was going to be a little bit more difficult because of the colors they chose. They went with a green and with a very dark shade of purple that looks kind of almost black. First thing that web review returned to us is that those colors are kind of sad because of the saturation levels and the overall darkness. So we figured out that we should start by recoloring the brand and suggesting a different set of colors. We didn't want to go the full route of a typical medical startup, which is just using blue. It took a while of tweaking to get the colors just right, and after that, the only thing to do was to slightly tweak the logo. The logo mark was a little bit too thin compared to the modern standards where we use quite a lot of thicker fonts for headings, so it would naturally stand out and not in a good way. We made it thicker, applied the colors, and instantly the website came to life. There are some subtle animations in the header, but nothing too overwhelming, and they're more to highlight certain features of the app. While designing this, we tried to avoid the animation paradox in which many companies go with every section sliding in either from the sides or from the bottom or from the top. So as you scroll, you have a complete slide fest of animation all over. That is cognitively taxing, and it's not really great if you have a lot of content on the website that is text-based. It turns out that Metidesk also has an option or a version of their app that's dedicated to veterinary clinics. So we used all we knew from this approach and created their second startup website based on that called Heuristic. The resemblance of the styles is there and it's on purpose because that allows you to see that this is a family or a suite of apps that belong together, that were created by the same team. But at the same time, the veterinary one has slightly younger audience in general. So we were able to do a little bit of those cute little elements like the paws of the dog and the cat sticking out, and some more little animations and paw prints on the website. Obviously, all of these changes were thoroughly tested. We tested it both manually using heuristics. We asked the users and the client asked the users multiple times. They tracked conversion every single step of the way. And there were some changes and adjustments done to the copy because obviously it's never fully done. But that redesign started their phenomenal growth to be 3 times more profitable, and we applaud them for it. This is a really great tool done by an amazing team of people, and we were happy to be able to contribute and help them along the way with an awesome website. So this is how we do websites. We don't just jump in and apply a new style or a new trend. We ask questions, a lot of them. We try to figure out who is the website for, and how will it benefit them. We carefully craft every little part of the copy, and all of that combined becomes a great website. And due to the constant testing and tweaking and improvements, it's only getting better with time. This is how we do websites at squareblack. And if you want to work with us, go to squareblack.com. We are accepting new clients at the moment. But there is also one other thing, because I've been training a lot of designers in the last few years, and I found a couple of gems. They don't have the 25 years of experience, but they have some of my experience ingrained into them through learning. So when they decided to start a subscription agency, I went on board and helped with the whole recruitment process and choosing the right people for the right job. So if working with me or squareblack in general is a little bit too expensive for you, this is probably the best alternative, because I personally trained these people. So yay, if you want an awesome website, you now have two options, squareblack or redesign. And if you want more videos like this, let me know in the comments. And obviously, have a beautiful day.